Hi, this is Shambhavi. Welcome to my weekly podcast about spirituality, love, death, devotion, and waking up while living in a messy world. The Satsang with Shambhavi podcast is recorded live each week with students of our nonprofit community, Jayakula. For more information and to find out about attending a satsang, visit jayakula.org. Thanks for listening. Much love to you, wherever and however you are.
Can you talk about round world and flat world?
Well, it's a distinction that I first heard on some radio program that I've never been able to find again. So it was somebody who had immigrated here from some country in Asia, which I also, it was like China, maybe it was China, and it might have been on KPFA. I would assume back then when I heard it, that's what I listened to. And I even went back in their archives and tried to find it, and I couldn't.
There's a book called The World is Flat.
There are a lot of people who use round world and flat world metaphors, but not in the same way.
Oh, not the same way.
Yeah, there's a whole something in economics that
it's
they
an economics,
use. Yeah.
Globalization.
Yeah, I have no idea what it is, but I found that when I was looking for the other reference. I think this guy just made it up. I don't think it was like something that he'd heard elsewhere. I think it was his private way of talking about his experience. Mm-hmm. But it just like really struck me because that's certainly been my experience since I was a little kid. And basically he said, you know, before I left home, I was living in a round world, a world that had spirit, that had ancestors, that had magic. Everything was alive and you could talk to plants and things like that. And now he says, I'm here in the flat world where, you know, what you see is what you get and there's just material and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he really was in mourning about it. So I guess you could say the flat world is the world of Western scientific materialism or philosophical materialism or political materialism, any one of those. And then the round world is the animist world, the world that's alive in all of its aspects and in which time can be experienced differently by different beings and where we live in simultaneity with ancestors and where there's unseen things happening that are important, where divination works and astrology works and mantra works and all those kind of things. That those are all round world technologies. So I guess it struck me a lot because, you know, my earliest memories are of this feeling of frustration that I just had this conviction that there was more here than meets the eye. So that his experience really resonated with me. Mm-hmm. Just in general, like my general experience. So I used it, and then I've been using it more lately, and been writing a little article about it, but it's not done yet. And we also watched this thing on Netflix, I think, a series called Green Frontier. That's very much about the violent clash between the round world and the flat world.
Hey, I've got a question. So maybe this is just me not really fully knowing what you mean by flat world and round world, but I feel like there isn't really an antagonism. There doesn't have to be an antagonism there. And maybe it's just in the language with flat world. It's like, oh yeah, flat world is obviously worse than round world just because of the name, you know? But it's like, I feel like science can be magical and mysterious and like there's nothing like, there doesn't have to be anything flat about like a materialistic in the sort of like philosophical sense, sort of perspective. And on the same hand, like I guess I'm coming at this from like sort of my own life where it's just like, I work in a scientific sort of setting and like, I'm surrounded by all these super rationalist people. And yet I'm doing all this Buddhist stuff and coming to satsang and like, I've been obsessed with the I Ching for like 30 years, you know, and,
me too.
And it's like, yeah, it's like, I don't feel like there's much at least in except for this resistance, I don't know what this resistance is. Like I hear round world and flat world and I'm like already angry just hearing the words. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, why don't they like science? And it's like, so I don't.
I think you have scientist fragility.
Yeah. Seriously.
Can I just interject a little?
Yeah. It's like the science can't stand on its own and just like sort of be cool, but if someone's talking shit about it, it's like, or even the hint of talking shit about it.
Well, look at how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years Western scientific rationalists have talked shit about the round world and used it as the underpinning of colonialism and genocide and raping of continents and people.
Yeah. I'm just living that out in my own.
Tiny little bit of pushback.
And it's like I'm living that out in my own head somehow,
So I'll just say that I was a science major in college, and I love science, and I love science fiction. I just don't think it tells nearly the whole story.
Yeah.
And it basically, when I talk about scientific rationalism or scientific materialism, we're talking about a worldview that says that first of all, that Western science, which is seeped all over the world, so it's like hardly Western anymore, but anyway, just use that as a little easy way of saying it, that Western science is at the top of the heap of all other epistemologies and technologies of knowing.
Right.
Wrong.
No, I mean, I'm agreeing with you. Like, it's like the default. Everybody assumes that that everyone else's perspective is coming from that. It's like there's not much room. There's nobody leaves any room. And it's like you start questioning it, and it's like, then I start getting angry or whatever.
Wait, I'm not who they are and we, who, what, where, who's we?
Yeah.
Who's?
Okay, so my right was me agreeing with you on like, it's like somehow we put it on top of the heap here, and it's like it's not like, it's like we don't even treat it as like there's even other epistemologies. It's like there's just this one.
That's right. That's the problem. That's the flat world point of view. The flat world point of view isn't just science is cool, yay science.
Yeah.
I think science is cool too. But the flat world point of view is science is the only way of knowing things. Yeah. And there is no spirit, and religion is the opiate of the masses. And time is this. Well, obviously there's different ideas of time these days, but in any way, it's the whole point of view and what that causes in the world. It's caused a lot of damage and a lot of suffering. Yeah. And also, it's in such an inadequate view.
Yeah. Is there room for science is cool in round world as you're thinking of it?
Absolutely.
That's cool.
In my round world, anyway. I don't know about that guy's round. You don't know me very well, but everyone can tell you I love technological gadgets.
I know, like when I was getting all uppity about this, like Kailashi was like, she loves science. I was like, what are you talking about?
It's the kind of thing where somebody once was asked, a different teacher, what is a yogi? And the answer was, a yogi is someone who will use anything available to realize. Mm. So one of the characteristics of the round world is, it's an anti-rejectionist thing. It rejects rejection. Mm. It says, hey, if you got something useful, I'm going to use it.
I love that.
Right?
That gives me chills.
Yeah. So we'll use anything to help us to have more direct understanding of how things are. But the flat world point of view, the flat world analysis is that only it deserves even the label of an epistemology.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been basically the excuse for all the damage that's been done to our world and many, many peoples and animals. It's also the underpinning of humanism, which has just done untold damage. So we have to recover from that point of view. We don't have to recover from science itself, like as a way of finding stuff out. But we have to recover from that, a scientistic point of view.
Thank you.
Understand how much harm it's done.